about that. I just had to get some sweeping done around here. Just like the Birds this past Sunday, who swept the Washington Commanders for the 2023 season. And it was honestly a pretty good game. I know, everybody's, all the Eagles fans, including one of my coworkers at work this past Sunday, he was flipping out because, it started out with the Birds trailing, the Commanders looking good. It was a dogfight, and all I said to him was, "Why are you surprised? This is the Philadelphia Eagles of 2023. They apparently will play down to all competition. Every game is going to be a dogfight. Every game is going to have some drama to it, but you know what? At least they ain't boring. Am I right? Come on, you honestly expected the Birds to just blow the fuck out of Washington? Sure, yeah, it kind of seemed they were, a little dominant and in control in Miami against Miami last week, but I think we can credit that mostly to the power of the Kelly Greens. This weekend, it was a divisional game on the road. Folks, come on. Division games are a whole different story. All right? You got to just throw all logic and reasoning out the window. I had absolutely no doubt in my mind that this game was going to be a dogfight. Washington took them to overtime last time. The Eagles prevailed, and I was not surprised in the least at how this game played out. Now, had I been watching the game live instead of being at work and following the stats, yeah, I probably would have been a little peed off because, hey, that's just how it is. You want your team to do good from the start to the finish rather than just have any sort of freaking tension, hit or miss. But the Birds found a way to get it done. And as frustrating as they are to watch and figure out, they're still getting the W's. And Jalen Hurts, for the most part, he had a pretty solid game. Just had that one turnover on the Philly tush push, the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it. So apparently if there is any way for that to be stopped, it's the Eagles themselves. Just, implosion, if you will. But as always, whenever Hurts or company have a debacle, they fight back, they make adjustments, and they rectify it, which is what they do. So I'm happy to see that. It's like no matter how many times they'll fuck up, they'll find a way to bounce back and redeem themselves. So that's good. Hurts had his first 4 touchdown passing game of the season. I believe it's his first 4 touchdown passing game of the season. It sure feels like it to me. A.J. Brown set an NFL record with his 6th straight game? Let's see. A.J. Brown makes NFL history, becoming the first player with 125-plus receiving yards in 6 consecutive games. So, congrats to A.J. Brown. He also had 2 outstanding touchdown receptions. So, without a doubt, he once again garners Player of the Week honors for me. But I think the play of the game has to go to Hassan Reddick with the Eagles' only sack of the game, and a critical sack at that, to prevent another Commanders comeback. And I guarantee you what, had Washington managed to come back, I don't think they would have played for overtime again. I think they would have gone for 2. Speaking of which, the strip sack fumble by Hassan Reddick, which pretty much was the play of the game and should have ended the game. I want to know, how many of you all were actually celebrating the DeAndre Swift rushing touchdown? Yes, you could argue that it did put the game out of reach. Or did it? We have all seen crazier things happen, folks. How many of you actually screamed? Because this is when I got fucking nuts. I got home in time to see Julio Jones catch his first touchdown pass as an Eagle that put the Birds on top for good. And then, of course, the Hassan Riddick strip sack fumble that the Birds recovered and were already well within Jake Elliott field goal range, but they only needed a couple first downs to run out the clock because, Washington burned out their timeouts. And oh yeah. Yeah, that one play, that was so bizarre because the reception by the Washington player, and I forget his name, I really didn't think to write that down because here's the funny thing. No news, there's no article, I shouldn't say there isn't any journalist article, sports article that recaps the whole game in its entirety. I just went by the one app, and it didn't make any mention about that critical call by the officials that initially was ruled a catch, but then they overturned it and said it was incomplete. Which would have been it was a critical third down play that it looked like Washington converted for a fresh set of downs. So they initially ruled that it was a reception, but then changed their minds and said it was incomplete. So instead of the Eagles now having to be forced to challenge the play, because we all saw on the one angle of the camera that the ball actually did touch the ground, even though we all thought he somehow caught it and kept it from hitting the ground. So instead, it's Washington having to challenge it, and they didn't win it, and it cost them a timeout, and it also cost them the fresh set of downs. Then came the Hassan Reddick strip sack fumble, which again should have ended the game. And for whatever fucking reason, I don't know if DeAndre decided to be cute or because he's frustrated that the ground game has not been very well effective for the Birds this season, decided to take it to the house. And everybody on the Eagles sideline is celebrating. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck is wrong with you all? Sure, yes, you now have a 2-score lead, but there's still time on that clock. And it's not like your defense has shown they can shut down this Washington team. Hello? You're the ones who had to come from behind. For whatever reason, Sam Howell plays his absolute best when it's against Philadelphia. So rather than DeAndre go down and just run the clock out, he scores a fucking touchdown and keeps the game going. And wouldn't you know it, on the next possession, Washington goes right down the field with only 50 seconds off the clock and score a touchdown with a minute to play. How many of you were then thinking, maybe he should have gone down? Yeah, he should have, because the game would have been over. Now Washington still has a shot. Okay, they didn't recover the onside kick, but what if they had? Guarantee you, they would have gone down the field and scored, and they would have tried to go for 2. Now, what happens beyond that point, I don't know. They either get it and win, or they don't, and the Birds hang on. But DeAndre Swift needs his fucking head examined. So does the entire Eagles squad, because they were all happy about that. Are you guys insane? You need to learn how to close games out. You already had the game won. You already had Washington beat. That was just rubbing it in their face, and they nearly came back and made you eat it. So that was stupid. It was about the only stupid thing the Birds did the whole game that I was against. The next time you got a chance to end the game, just fucking end it. And if I hear the excuse they weren't really thinking about that, how do you not think about that? Come on. That's ridiculous. But they still won. Even though that little last bit of drama was not completely necessary. Hoi. And apparently Jalen Hurts had himself a damn good game, all with a bruised knee injury, which we weren't all very well aware of until these past few weeks. And if he is hurt, he sure ain't playing like he's hurt, but only when he's running. So we were always wondering why he seems a bit slower and why he's hesitant to run. There you have it. It's enough to allow him to scramble out of that pocket, but well, now a few things. Well, now there's But now a few things make a little more sense. Still no disclosure on how serious this so-called injury is, but it must not be that serious if the Eagles aren't making any more reports on it and Jalen Hurts just doesn't want to talk about it. That's fine. Let's move on. Oh boy, I tell you what. Philadelphia Eagles football this season. Am I right, folks? As fun as it can be just as stressful. But I guess that's anybody's team, depending on the week. Oh, man. Kevin Byard in his Philadelphia Eagles debut. Really kind of a mild, nothing to really talk about. Let's see, I think I wrote it down here. Let's see. He had 4 tackles on the day and 3 assists. So he did contribute, but really nothing that garnered any real worldwide attention or something or note of news. But for the Washington Commanders, a few high notes for them. Their kicker, Joey Sly, set a franchise record with a 61-yard field goal. Where have we heard and seen that one before? Remember when Jake Elliott did that? Only his was a game winner for us against the Giants. And I believe he kicked one earlier this season. Damn, who was that against? Was it the Vikings? I think it was the Vikings. That kind of set the tone for the rest of that game. So unlike Washington, when our kicker makes astonishing field goals, it benefits us. Sam Howell, again, for some reason, he loves playing against the Eagles. I mean, his QB rating is kind of fair compared to other teams, but against the Eagles, he looks like a fucking Hall of Famer. What the fuck? He has a career high in passing yards with 397. I don't get it. He just loves playing the birds. But he gets the bird all the time because the Eagles still come out on top, which is the main thing. So, looking at the trade deadline that has come and gone, the Eagles, of course, got Byard the previous week. For the deadline, really nothing much. They traded a guy named they traded Katavius to the Falcons for a 2025 7th round pick. And no, my bad. That was their trade of the Falcons. I can't read my own handwriting. That's fucking sad. Okay. The Eagles traded Katavius to the Falcons and a 2025 7th round pick in exchange for a 2024 6th round conditional pick. So hopefully Katavius can do something in Atlanta and make that 6th round pick look a little better. As far as the trade deadline goes, really nothing too big except for the 49ers, who now just got Chase Young from the so-called Commanders for a 3rd round pick. So maybe Washington might get the last laugh on the birds, depending on how this turns out for the Eagles-Niners matchup down the road. But this guy does have injury history, so maybe, just maybe, he'll be a little too dinged up, or he might get dinged up during the game with the birds. Yeah, speaking of the 49ers, we gotta touch on them later. What the hell's going on? Let's see. The Commanders also trade Montez Sweat to the Bears for a 2024 2nd round pick. Whoop-de-doo. Seahawks acquired defensive end Leonard Williams from the Giants for a 2024 2nd round pick and a 2025 5th round pick. And if I'm Leonard Williams, I'm probably saying, thank you, God, for a small favor. Get me the hell out of New York. And the Vikings, of course. Wow. You're a Vikings fan this season. You immediately go to church and you're saying, why do you hate us, God? Why? What the heck? So the Vikings had to trade for Dobbs from the Arizona Cardinals, giving up a 2024 7th round pick in exchange. Oh no, wow, I really need to understand my own handwriting better. I apologize. Okay, so the Vikings acquired Josh Dobbs and the 2024 7th round pick. In exchange, they give up a 2024 6th round pick to the Cardinals. Okay, now we got that all straightened out. So how does Josh Dobbs fit with Minnesota's scheme? Who the heck knows? At least they got a little time to prepare. I mean, let's move on to like the picks and stuff. There they go. Against Atlanta. So that's a good team to start against. Oh, wow. But you know, tell you what. I think I'm going to cut this video short right here. This is really going to be a shorter video compared to what I've normally done. But I think I definitely want to focus my energy toward like what's happened, recapping last week, and then like focusing on the future picks and stuff. So part 2 will be coming up eventually. But for those of you who watched part 1, I thank you. Leave a like in the comments if you do. Give me some tidbits. I know I can do a heck of a lot better. But hey, I'm happy. Eagles won again. 7-1. The best record in the league. Even though some will say they don't play like it. But you know what? Does anybody look like they should with their record? I don't think there's an actual real dominant team in this league this season. Everybody looks vulnerable. Just look at the Kansas City Chiefs. How the fuck do you lose to a team that gave up 70 fucking points? You only got 9? And let me guess, the excuse is because Patrick Mahomes was sick. All right, so yeah. Stay tuned for part 2, if you would. I appreciate it. Again, thumbs up, subscribe, and hey, catch y'all on the flip side.